Wolfman Sam, here with my partner Johnny Buff Guns.
Hello, everyone.
And we are
Creatures of the Night.
How's everyone doing today?
Good, very good. How you doing?
I'm doing good. John, you want to start us off?
I guess I will. I get to start this podcast off with, I recently went to Monster Mania last month. I met, oh my god, I had a blast. Where did I even begin? I met Melissa Barrera from the recent Scream movies and Abigail. She signed my Blu-ray copy, and she was super nice, super friendly, despite the long wait online for almost 2-3 hours, but it was worth it. She was oh my god, even though I met people at conventions, but I feel like out of all people, again, this is just me, she's probably my favorite person I've ever met at a convention in my life. She was so friendly, down to earth, so generous and sweet, and I got a hug from her. She's a hugger to her fans. Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
But yeah,
and also not to I met Clive Barker, Doug Bradley, Ashley Lawrence, and I met Marley Shelton. Actually, hopefully you can see this. Here's my Blu-ray copy that Pinhead signed, and Ashley Lawrence. Sorry for the blur, guys. I don't know what's going on with this blur.
There's a little obscure camera. I don't know if you guys see that, but
either I could just take a photo and just make a better image.
And you met I forget his name from Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 and Halloween as well.
Ken Foray.
Yeah.
Yeah, I met Ken Foray, but that was at a different place. That was at a zombie festival in Pennsylvania, a drive-in movie theater where they were showing George Romero's Dawn of the Dead, Night of the Living Dead, Day of the Dead, the classics of Romero Zombies, Dead movies. Right, that was a different event, but still.
Zombie Mania, basically.
Yeah, basically, yeah. It was fun. That was a lot of fun, and Ken Foray was also super nice and really cool to talk to, very friendly. He did it before Dawn of the Dead started. He did a little Q&A. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and that's really what's important. If you don't have the actors giving back to the fans, it's just you get snobby actors, sometimes directors too.
Yeah, no, it's just so cool. Well, especially Clive Barker, that was his one of his last conventions. The guy's retiring from conventions because he's retired because of health problems, and he was very nice too. But you know what it is, because of his health condition, he wasn't he didn't have much energy. But it's not his
right. Yeah, I mean,
when I met him, when I was saying how talented he is, how great he is, he's my favorite horror author. He gave me a smile, and deep down he knew that he was very kind to my words, and I gave him a thumbs up, and he's smiling, thank you. So he knew deep down.
Yeah, I mean, because I could imagine. Probably he never thought that his book was going to be this big, giant franchise. The Hellbound Heart, which turned into Hellraiser, which he directed. The original Hellraiser.
I know. It's I always tell people how interesting is you don't hear that a lot, where a guy who wrote the Hellbound Heart book and he directed the move one of his short stories into a movie.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the situation with Stephen King movies, but I don't think he's ever directed anything.
Actually, well, he directed the Shining mini.
The mini series. I know he had a hand in, but I'm talking about mostly his move.
Okay, right. That I don't know either myself.
But that I'm unsure about. But yeah, Clive is one of those guys that. For lack of a better term, I mean, how many writers, how many authors can you say directed their movies?
That's true. No, that's true. Right, and he did Nightbreed, but I'm not sure which short story that is. And he did do Candyman, but he only produced that.
And I know there's a comic of Nightbreed, but I think that came after the movie.
Something like that.
I don't think that's an adaptation of a comic. I don't.
Right.
I
haven't seen that or Lords of Illusions or Midnight. I did read the short story Midnight Train recently from Books of Blood. That was a really good one. I have to check the movie out for curiosity.
I'm currently listening to the audiobook of Hellbound Heart.
Okay.
And it's different, It's
right.
There's a lot of differences. Certain names are switched around.
Yes.
I know the thing about Pinhead specifically, unlike in the movie, uh, he's not really male or female.
No, there's like no
Why that
specific
he
answer to
looks
that.
more female than they were kind of doing that in the remake.
Yeah,
Um,
like I think the remake is a female, but don't quote me. I didn't see the remake, but again,
but
don't quote me on it.
you know it. But it's interesting. It's an interesting difference.
And well, it's like how you said about the Crow, like similar to the Crow. It's one of those things. Like, okay, it worked out very well. They made changes from the book to the movie.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like I recently rewatched The Crow, and
Same,
it still holds up. The original Crow,
absolutely. Well,
the only Crow as far as I'm
right,
concerned. But on that note, I do kind of have a love. I do kind of have a soft spot for the second movie.
okay.
Um, yeah, yeah. So
I did a YouTube video on the Crow, and I only briefly, like, touched upon. Oops. You
yeah,
okay?
yeah, I'm all right. I'm
Uh,
just shutting off my phone. Don't mind
okay,
me.
gotcha. As I
Oh,
was saying, I saw when I did my Crow YouTube video, I mentioned about the sequels, like briefly touching upon what I thought of them. And the second one, I agree. It's not that it's bad. It's just I feel bad saying how like that. This is a character who, like, his son was killed. You think I would feel some kind of emotion, but I just don't find the character that interesting for some reason in City
right
of
in
Angels.
the sequel. Well,
Yeah,
that's the thing is in the movie. I mean, in the book for The Crow, it's so much more personal because James O'Barr was literally writing what he was feeling about the death of
yeah,
his girlfriend,
yeah,
which the Shelley Webster character in the book was modeled after.
right,
He modeled his own girlfriend appearance wise.
right.
Um, you know, and basically made the girlfriend in the book look like his girlfriend in real life. So a
Yeah,
lot of the pain in the book comes from real. It's a real
right,
thing. And Obar
right,
was really using the book and his writing as therapy to get
right.
over the loss and tragedy of his own girlfriend, which
Right. And
unfortunately.
I didn't see the reboot, and I'm not surprised that the
No,
reboot
I
was
avoided the
very.
reboot because
So did I.
I
I did.
understood what it was. It was just some movies shouldn't be remade.
I agree.
The only reason I would say we should have a Crow movie if it was more if it was more of a faithful adaptation to the book.
I guess.
Though the original movie, though despite its differences, was pretty faithful. They made some
Right.
changes here and there. You know, they gave the Crow a weakness. He did not have a
Yeah.
weakness in the book.
Right.
And the death of the Crow, the death of Eric Draven and Shelley Webster was
Kelly.
different in
Yeah.
the movie where they're pushed out a window versus
Yeah.
in the book where they're killed on the side of the road.
Yeah. They were supposed to
And
go like on a, they were supposed to go like on a, it was like a date night or something, or
yeah,
just a date,
yeah. In
and
the book, it's
they were.
so much more violent. It's so much more cold
It's
in the
like
book.
how in the Punisher con when him and his family are on a picnic, they just come across this mob for no reason when they witness a crime murder. And same thing
Right.
with the Eric and Shell, they just came across these thugs for no reason that just
Yeah.
kill and torture them for no reason.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, guys, if I'm giving all types of spoilers away. I hope most of you watching this had already seen the original Crow. If for those of you that haven't, you go watch it. The Crow with Brent Lee from the '90s. It should be easy to find. I think it was 93,
94.
94.
93 was the year he died, and I don't know if I mentioned this the last time we did a podcast talking about the Crow. Not the reincarnation. The year Brandon Lee died, that was the year I was born, but I'm not the reincarnation of Brandon Lee. I don't.
No,
No.
no. Yeah, I read somewhere also that there's one scene where he's not in, where they used a stunt double, and I believe
Yes, it's a
that's
scene when he
the
puts the makeup
car
on
crash.
and the
That's the car
shot.
crash scene.
Okay, I did not know that.
I think.
But remember the
It's
scene when he,
whatever. I think yeah, because I think they used a stuntman for one of them because he doesn't speak, and you see the back of him. So I don't know if in that particular scene, it's actually him. I don't think so, unfortunately. But
the scene with the makeup when he's putting the makeup on, the shot of like Eric Draven, the Crow, like through the window. That was not branded. That was actually, believe it or not, a CGI speak, and it actually is not bad for a CGI for the '90s.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know
I didn't
that.
know that either. I found that
I
out
didn't
recently.
realize it, but
No,
that's
me
down to
neither.
that's
When
down to the film,
on
being
my
directed very well. Which, by the way, stylized wise, it still holds up. It
yeah,
still holds up.
on my birthday, I did a TikTok video saying how instead of going to see the reboot, I stayed home and watched The Crow for my birthday. That was
Yeah,
my birthday
yeah.
movie I watched for movie night.
I rewatched The Crow very very recently, and
Right,
it always reminds me of the main thing that inspired my writing, in terms of my own horror stories and stuff like that. But yeah, it was one of the main movies that really was a huge inspiration for me. I fell in love with the book. I fell in love with the movie, and
same.
and seeing it all these years later, it still holds up. Whether I like them both equally. I
Same.
don't think one is better than the other. They're both very different.
Neutral.
And I've stated this before. I think we talked about The Crow on this podcast
We
before.
did, we did, but it's okay. You can bring it up again.
Yeah,
Since
yeah.
the reboot
We
came
have to
out.
bring it up again because it's close to the Halloween season. I know
True.
it's September now, but
Devil's Night.
yep, yep. But it's the fall. It's the fall season. It's past the fall season. So
Yeah,
we have to talk about it. But
right.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
also because, like I said, the reboot came out.
Yeah, yeah, and the reboot came out, but like I said, I guarantee there's probably gonna be some people that are gonna like the reboot, which is fine. But it's just for us, some movies shouldn't be remade.
Right. I did decide to make one exception. Like, when it comes to streaming, maybe I'll check it out just for curiosity. At least I can say I don't feel guilty and regret that I didn't waste my
Maybe
money.
we'll see.
But I don't give a guarantee on that part.
Like I said, the only like thing I think they should do with The Crow in terms of licensing and making something new of The Crow, make a more faithful adaptation of the book.
Yeah.
That's the only advice I could give.
I wrote a comment on a TikTok video about why I refused to watch the reboot because every time I kept watching the trailer, my brain just shut off and was not drawn to
Yeah, and
the original.
it looks, like I said, not to crap on it, but it looks cheap.
Yeah, I
It
agree.
looks like a lot of movies today where it looks cheap.
Right.
It looks like it's trying to capitalize on nostalgia while trying to kind of
It didn't even
freshen
feel. That's the other thing. I don't
things
think
up.
it didn't capture that style like the original. It just felt like a different movie, just with the crow. Like,
Yeah, and listen, the sequels, I get it. If I get it if they wanted to do a new character, right? They
yeah, I
wanted
can
to
agree on
do
that part.
But this is supposed to be the Eric Draven character. Don't get me wrong.
Yes,
I mean,
it is, but it
yeah, I
doesn't
mean,
feel like he doesn't.
Skarsgård character. I just don't buy it.
He
I
doesn't
just
even look
don't
like
buy it. I'm
Eric.
like, who is this cosplay?
Yeah.
I expected Jared Leto to. That's what he looks like. He looks like a discount Jared Leto.
To me,
On Pro.
to me, he looks like a different character that was like in a different
Yeah,
movie and just added in at the last second. That's how I look
yeah,
at
and
it, in
like
my
I said,
opinion.
I said if you want to do something with the Crow, make it like the book.
Right.
Kind of do what the first movie really couldn't do or tried to do. Because if you look in the behind the scenes of the original movie, they tried to make it like the book.
Oh, they did. They did. They
They had the
really.
Skull Cowboy from the book.
Right.
And for some reason, it just didn't translate well, and that happens.
Well, partly because
There's still gotta be some
more
movie out of it.
they wanted more scenes with the Skull Cowboy, but again, Brandon Lee's death impacted that.
Right, right. I still would like, I wish we could bring them back Dragon Ball style, but it is what it is. It's
Well,
it's
here's a
tragedy,
little joke. Here's a little joke right here. Brandon Lee comes back from the dead to set vengeance on the studio that rebooted The Crow and insulted the
Yeah,
original.
yeah. I don't know what he would think about the remake, but
I don't know.
who
I
knows?
don't
Who
know.
knows?
We'll never know because he's
Yeah,
long. He's
and
been gone.
that's not that. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Skarsgård is a good actor.
Yeah, he
I
is.
liked him in the It movies, but him as the Crow, what they're kind of doing with the Crow, it doesn't
Also,
appeal to me. It doesn't appeal to me.
This is also one of the rare times where I did watch like YouTubers talking about the film. I didn't care about spoilers because, for what I've heard from their point of view, is again changing up from the original to this reboot. In this reboot, apparently, what I learned from Cody Leach, Eric and Shelley were drug addicts. They met in rehab. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me!
Yeah, it's just it makes no sense
No,
because
because in the original they weren't drug addicts. They were just a regular couple, and it's like, why would
right,
they have to do
and
that?
therefore it makes it all the more tragic. Like if you have drug addicts that basically
And they met in rehab.
shot and killed or whatever, it kind of takes away the sympathy. You know,
Yeah,
what made Shelley and Eric's death so tragic was they were a happy couple.
yeah,
And again, the book expands upon this. You get to see them together paint. You know, the movie it kind of flashes. There's flashes, but in the
yeah,
book, you get to see full-on scenes of them clowning around, falling in love. Eric
yeah,
proposing to her, which they do in the book, but again, it's flashes. It's flashes of memory. In the
yeah.
book, you get the full picture, and you get how deeply they were in love. Um,
Eric and Shelley had a strong like love bond that we all like want in life when we
not to
meet
say
someone.
that not to say that people on drugs can't be in love, but
True.
you turn basically the Crow into Requiem for a Dream,
Yeah,
basically.
pretty much, but minus
Basic.
the acid dreams.
Right, right. You turned it, you turned it into to borrow a music reference, Sid Vicious
Yeah,
and I forget his girlfriend. I want to say Nancy, but I think it is Nancy. But yeah, you kind of lessened the romance of it.
yeah,
Which I mean, if you want to remake The Crow while still keeping it original, adapt the book. You know, adapt the book. Find somebody that looks like the book. Kind of like almost like a muscular Iggy Pop kind of guy. I
yeah.
would recommend don't do Jared Leto. I'm so sick of Jared Leto. He is he is he's like an emo guy that refused to grow up. He's like, no, I'm still cool, I'm still edgy, but I'm old.
I back in my old college when I took filming classes, someone I remember talking to worked with Jared Leto on some I don't know which film, but he said Jared Leto was crazy and weird and a psycho to like
Yeah, he
meet and
really
work
tries
with.
to still. He's kind of got like Peter Pan syndrome, and that like
Pretty
he
much.
tries to be that like edgelord or emo or
And
whatever.
right,
He's
and
like,
here's
yeah,
the
I'm so cool. Look at me. I'm sending
right,
my
and
co-workers
here's
dead
a little
rats, as the Joker or whatever. And
right,
it's there's something about him that's very phony. I know there
right.
are people that, again, going back to Requiem for a Dream, I know there are people that are like, "Oh, Requiem for a Dream was awesome," and blah blah blah. I'm like, I can't get into him. I can't
That's
get into him.
fine.
He's just
It
not.
happens, but I'll admit I really have not seen a lot of his. I mean, I've seen some things, but
I've
not a
seen
lot.
I've seen a few. I
Same.
avoided Morpheus. He's a terrible
I didn't
Joker.
see that one.
Um,
Yeah,
you know,
Suicide Squad. He was just a crap. He just
yeah,
again like
and I get what he was doing. He was doing 51 Shades of Heath Ledger, basically, but
yeah.
like a hot topic
Well,
Heath Ledger.
and speaking of, do you remember the movie? Well, he wasn't American Psycho. Remember, he played Paul Allen.
Yeah, I always forget.
Stop!
Yeah, yeah,
Stop! Not getting reservations at doors.
yeah. I
I
always
was,
forget that's him until I'm like, oh
I
yeah,
was,
because he
I was,
blends in. He
I
blends
was
in.
joking. I was joking with Dad. Here's a meme to that where Patrick Bateman killed Jared Leto because of replacing Heath Ledger's Joker.
Yeah, yeah, and I like the Heath Ledger Joker fine,
Same.
but I do think in terms of Batman, not to get off on a Batman tangent, but I do think the Joker, especially now, has been way overused. Way
Yeah.
overused in the
Yeah,
comics and
I
the
could agree with
movies.
that.
I'm like, once you get, I know we got the Batman with the Riddler, where they kind of made him sort of a Zodiac
Like
killer.
Jigsaw and the Zodiac Killer, or
Yeah,
like
basically. I'm
yeah,
like, why don't you just do the Riddler, like from the comics, and like with the right kind of writing, you could make him not only threatening, but kind of
I actually really enjoyed.
kind of a genius.
I actually enjoyed it a lot with Paul Dano as the Riddler. That was like really like awesome, like the way he like portrayed the Riddler as like a homicidal, crazy psycho, like maniac who thinks that.
I dug it for a little bit until
Okay,
until he kind of had a little spurg fit, and was like, was doing the Heath Ledger thing of like the shaky camera, like I'm the best, blah, blah, blah.
right,
Like,
right.
and coming off less of like an arrogant guy and more like a guy trying so hard to be scary and he's
Right.
not scary. Like you almost became a joke towards the end.
What I also got out of it too, like he was like trying to prove his point was like Batman any better than like what Gotham's like politics were or stuff like that. And it's like I kind of like that sometimes in a movie, not just like in Batman, but any movie like that. But anyway,
and like I said, we discussed this before. I'm not a fan of the Batman with Robert Pattinson.
Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
I liked it. Sorry.
No, it's okay. That's okay.
I'm just joking.
Listen, it's just my opinion.
Right.
That's what I say to people. It's like if we ever say like that we don't like a movie, don't ever take it personal. It's just our opinion. You can like that movie. You can be like, oh, this is my favorite movie of all time. Blah blah blah.
Right.
We don't take offense.
Right. Hey, even like I love the Scream movies, but I met two of my friends don't like Scream, but it happens. Not for everybody.
And that's what being a fan is about. Everyone's got their own opinion. Their own opinion and passions, and that's it.
Right.
And you could like something we don't like.
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny. I'm wearing a shirt of it, but John is a massive Halloween fan.
Yes,
I am. But you love the Halloween.
Yeah. Well, I don't. There's probably more people who are like more massive than I. I mean, yeah, I know the basics, but I wouldn't say I'm like, oh, what is the definitive version of like a fanboy? I don't know. I guess it really depends on what they like or what they're so passionate about.
It's all different things,
Well, here's a little bit of a story, I guess, I want to bring up about meeting Doug Bradley. Even though I already knew some of it, it was nice to hear Doug Bradley's story about. I asked him like what happened on why there was no there was supposed to be Pinhead versus Michael Myers, but here's just the long story short. He said that what happened was John Carpenter and Clive Barker were both on board to work on the film where Carpenter was going to direct it and Barker was going to write it. And again, that could have been awesome. Carpenter and Barker on a movie together? Why not?
Yeah.
What happened was Mustafa Akkad, the founder and owner of the franchise, said, "No, I don't want to do this idea. I'm not feeling it. I'm not up for it." So, I mean, maybe even if this film was not going to be a good idea, I still would have watched it. Like Michael Myers versus Pinhead, why not? But again, I know it's hard to imagine Michael Myers as a Cenobite. I will admit that, though.
It would be a cool, interesting thing to kind of do. I've always thought if they're ever going to do a Pinhead crossover, the guy that's kind of a no-brainer. In fact, you can kind of tie this in with Freddy and Jason.
Yes, I could see that.
Yeah, but Freddy Krueger would be an interesting kind of guy to cross over with Pinhead.
Right. I can definitely.
He's already beaten hell, right?
Yeah, true.
And you can have Pinhead kind of suggest sort of a power grab for Freddy, which he would absolutely take. Imagine Freddy Krueger as a Cenobite,
I guess. Or Jason as a Cenobite.
But I feel like definitely the opportunity we've mentioned. We talked about this on our Nightmare on Elm Street retrospective. Was definitely the missed opportunity of Freddy versus Jason versus Ash. Now there is a comic. We talked about the comic.
There is.
But again, that kind of ties in what we talked about the Crow in that if you're going to do an adaptation, pay attention to the comics.
Yeah.
Know what fans want. Make sure you're adapting the right comics. Because not all comics are good.
Right.
There are bad comics.
I have to reread those comics. I read them a long time ago.
I have the first issue. I have the first one. Yeah, I don't have the rest of them. I know there's more. But I was
the
reading
third
that
one was a little
comic
bit
like
too
watching a
much.
movie.
Yeah, true.
You know,
I do
and
wish that.
yeah, and it could have happened. Bruce Campbell is now up there, and
True.
doing it now is a little tricky because he's a little up there. He could still do it. We did Freddy.
True, but even Robert Englund says he's retired as Freddy is at this point in his career.
Yeah,
And also,
I don't blame him.
and also, even Bruce Campbell said the reason why he never wanted to do this idea because he doesn't like the idea of crossovers with other like horror villains. And
it could have worked. It could have worked.
yeah, Sam, I don't know how true this is. Sam Raimi said he was sort of on board. The problem was that the studio would not allow him to have control what he wanted to do with the idea.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That could have been cool. Sam Raimi directing Freddy versus Jason versus Ash. It could have worked out very well.
Right. It would have been a nice. It would have been a nice addition to like. And you could have still done Ash versus Evil. Evil Dead. Also.
Right. Well, and this is why I got my
an episode. Yeah. I have to get that myself.
Got the entire series, and I'm rewatching it. And it is awesome.
Yeah.
Or groovy.
I still don't believe they didn't have the rights for the first movie.
For Evil Dead?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's why we talked about this, but that's why if you ever seen the first few minutes of Evil Dead 2, you're just like,
oh yeah, right. Oh yes, no, I remember. Okay.
It's a kind of a recap, or like the first few minutes are kind of the first movie redone. That's why, because they didn't have the rights to their own movie.
Right. In Ash vs. Evil Dead, like you only see the first two. You don't see Army of Darkness. Again, the rights issue because of Universal owning Army of Darkness.
Yeah. And speaking of rights issues, I've always wondered, because I have a collection of Child's Play movies.
Right.
And the collection I have doesn't have the first movie.
Actually, I have the Blu-ray with all of it because now it's updated now finally.
Yeah. Well,
they updated it.
I'm just talking about the one I had.
Right. Yeah. No, I had that too.
And I always wondered, I was like, why was that? And I had just gotten the first movie, and I was like, oh, it's a different company, but rights issues.
Yeah, I don't know why, like the first Child's Play, I don't know why, they sold the rights to Universal. Maybe because they thought they're gonna make a sequel. We want a bigger budget. We'll sell to Universal.
Well, wasn't it originally done by United?
I'm not sure who made the first Child's Play movie off the top of my head.
I think it was United, so that makes sense because that company is not around anymore.
Okay, let's see. The studio that made it was... Oh, yeah, right, United Artists. I guess maybe that's why. Maybe they...
Yeah, because in the 80s, there was a lot of companies like Canon Films that aren't around anymore.
True.
Independent companies.
Yeah.
Hellraiser was done by World Pictures.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but obviously we all know Hellraiser was owned. The series was owned by Dimension Harvey Dickstein.
Oh yeah.
Let me see. Entertainment Film Distributor. That's who it was.
Oh.
Yeah.
I was wrong. I thought it was.
That's okay. That's okay. I don't remember all the studios of who owned who and.
But that happens.
When they did a sequel, when they did a sequel with New World Pictures. Then after that, it was Dimension up until a certain point, until when they lost the rights after the whole Harvey Weinstein scandal case.
Yes. Yeah. But
anyway,
here nor there. Is there anything else you want to cover?
Well, I guess since I want to show you some goodies I got for my birthday recently, I showed you Ash vs. Evil Dead. I'm rewatching it. I'm loving it again. Well, actually, this I bought at my mall. Evil Dead Rise, the recent Evil Dead that came out last year. Matinee. Sorry for the blur, guys.
Yeah.
And Jackson. I love this movie. I don't care what anybody says about if it's.
What was the other one? I didn't catch the.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Action Jackson. Okay.
Matinee and. Here's Action Jackson. Love this movie. So awesome. We miss you, Carl Weathers.
Yep.
And Dracula in 1972 AD.
I remember that one. Have
you seen it?
Yes, I've seen that movie a long time ago.
Okay, it's
It's a mixed bag.
Yeah, I can respect why some people love it because it's more of like, comedy and a parody and the idea
Yeah,
Dracula versus hippies, but I can agree. It's like, I can take it or leave it. I can
it's a
respect
little
it
bit
for,
Dracula exploitation-ish.
yeah, true. I respect it for people who enjoy the cheesy and the goofiness, but me, again, it's like, take it or leave it.
Yeah. Well,
And the,
before this podcast started, I wanted to just touch upon the people watching here. We were talking a little bit about vampires. We were talking about Underworld. I recently saw one of the Underworld sequels. I'm terrible with subtitles, but the second Underworld movie. It was okay.
right.
I thought it was okay. I had recommended Vampire Hunter D for those anime fans out there. It's a great show, and if you want a more condensed and just as cool sequel to it, Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust. It's not really a sequel, but it kind of is. But John, if you're ever interested, Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust, and of
Right.
course, the series known as Hellsing.
Right.
Anime fans will know exactly what I'm talking about.
Right. And I'll probably put a picture of this as I edit this video about what it is. And
Yeah, for those of you that don't know, that not into anime, Hellsing's kind of a Dracula spin, an interesting spin on Dracula,
right.
so to speak. And we talked about it before, but it's basically what happens when the granddaughter of Van Helsing kind of hires Dracula to work for her in the Helsing
It
organization.
actually does sound like a good idea.
It's a
Actually,
really good idea, and
it sounds better than what Hammer did with the Dracula 8072 with the Van Helsing's granddaughter.
Yeah, the Vampire Hunter D is basically what happens when you take Van Helsing, the Hugh Jackman version, or Solomon Kane, if you're like me, Vampire Hunter, who is a half vampire, and he hunts vampires in sort of a steampunk Victorian era kind of setting. The series kind of touches upon him actually fighting Dracula, and the movie touches upon him fighting, I think it's Dracula's wife of Dracula. But I recommend Bloodlust first because you get more of that gothic imagery. The 80s series is great too, so give them both a watch. But Vampire Hunter D and Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust are some great vampire anime if you're ever
Right. Right.
But yeah, if you miss sort of when vampires were gothic and vampires were vampires, Vampire Hunter D and Hellsing.
I think that's what I always look for vampires. I like the gothic like atmospheres, like castles and
especially Vampire Hunter D. Hellsing has it too, but Vampire Hunter D, especially when you get to Bloodlust, it's just dripping. It's just dripping with hammer worship, but there's some steampunk elements to it, and it's just you have the I mean I will say this: anime, in terms of an art style, is a cheap kind of animation style, right? Yeah, I'm not really a big fan of it, but when it looks good, that old school '90s style, early 2000s style, it captures that
right, right, and
but yeah.
And this is what I also bought for myself for my birthday. Sleepaway Camp. Have you ever seen it?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen it before?
Movie. Yes, long time ago.
Right.
Ago.
Well, everyone. I think there's a lot of people who are familiar about it because of its cult following and especially the twist ending. Before I even saw the movie, I knew what it was about. Really, I was sort of I remember hearing about it at conventions. Where I went to conventions. People wore T-shirts or maybe dressed up as the character, and the part where the ending, sorry if I'm not doing the best impression or the best facial expression of Angela's character at the end of how but I recognized that mouth expression, but I did not understand what that meant until I saw them. I'm like, what the fuck?
Right, right. It's definitely, if you're not familiar with it, guys, if you haven't seen it, give it a watch. Go in blind.
Yes, I
We won't
agree.
spoil it for you. Go in blind.
Right.
Go in completely blind.
Right. And
Because that'll,
I'm also debating should I make a YouTube video about this because it is part of a slasher and like well it's sort of a big cult following the slasher community and if we want to
yeah.
touch upon it a little bit in this podcast.
Yeah, and summer just kind of passed, and I kind of
True.
think of it as like a summer slasher, that and the Friday the 13th movies, of course.
Actually, it's funny you say that. I think this movie was more of a summer camp than the Friday the 13th movie because it actually had summer camp and we see people,
Yeah,
doing what people do at summer camps, playing baseball or volleyball and
yeah,
is in
yeah.
every Friday the 13th movie. It's about to open up Camp Crystal Lake, but then Jason slaughters the camp like, oh no, we're closing it, we're closing
They're
it.
called the, and it's funny they like change the name. It's like they try everything they can to keep it open, and it never works.
No, it doesn't. And also, like in Sleepaway Camp too, like you have this like girl, Felicia Rose's character. She seems like just she's basically like a Carrie type where she's being bullied for no reason. They make fun of her and
Right,
insults at her.
right.
Yeah, and she's shy, no self esteem, but then builds a little confident, but she's just afraid to get out of her comfort zone a little bit.
Yeah, and I remember it being really good, but I have to definitely
Eh,
rewatch that movie for sure.
it's okay. It's not great. Like I said, go in blinded rather than knowing what to expect. I showed it to my dad recently, and he kind of like was like, "What the heck?" Ending was like the same reaction I had. He's also like, "What?
Yeah, most
What?"
people have a reaction to the ending. I had the
Yeah,
same reaction of like, oh, okay,
yeah, same. I had the
okay,
same.
it's that kind of movie. Okay,
Yeah, where it ended on a 12. All right,
twist.
like if you haven't seen the movie, here's sort of
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
basically it ends
Oh,
where
no,
what's
don't
that?
don't spoil don't spoil the ending.
All right,
Don't
sorry, sorry,
don't
sorry,
spoil the
just
ending, please, please.
sorry.
Don't spoil the ending.
Just basically, you're gonna be shocked about the ending, who the killer. That's all I'm gonna say right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
But
and also it is a little bit corny at times and stereotypical, like Friday the 13th type of film with cliche characters.
yeah, but that's 80s. You're gonna run into your cliches because they at the time they either were not established as cliches yet,
Right,
not until the 90s.
right. Did you ever see the sequels to them, or?
No, I never saw the sequels.
I only saw parts of the second film. I turned it off. I'm like, I cannot handle this anymore. Like, no, this is
It was
just.
bad. Bad, huh?
It was really bad. It was too. Even though despite I do like some corny cheesy horror film, but this was like over the top where I just not on my level of corny and
Sometimes
cheesiness.
it's too much. Sometimes it's too much.
Yeah, I just have not like bothered to attempt to finish it or maybe like see the other sequel. Despite Felicia Ross came back in one of them, like I'll be all right. It's another one of those we didn't need sequels.
Yeah, straight to video kind of thing, or straight
Yeah,
to video.
basically, yeah. I'm not sure if this was maybe was this released theatrically. I'm not so sure because again it didn't have a following until years later. Now it has
Right,
again like a big cult following. I say you go to conventions, people quote the movie or they wear a T-shirt or they'll dress up as a character from the movie.
right, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. And I hear Felicia Ross is very nice to meet at a convention. I hope to meet her someday because of this movie's cult following.
Well, you met a lot of people in your con travels.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
far.
you definitely been to more cons than I have. I'm
I
kind of
don't know
jealous.
about that. Like it really depends because again the distance and the cost. It's you got can't
Yeah,
go
it's
to
not cheap.
everybody.
It's not
What's
cheap.
that?
It's not
No,
cheap.
no. You have to have your wallets filled up with money in it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Anybody watching this knows what we're talking about. It's not cheap to go to cons.
No,
Uh,
it's not.
I'm
No,
not
it's
lucky. I got the chance to go to one in my entire life. So
right. Well, I tell people when you go to these cons, do an assessment. Like make a list of who you really, really want to meet. Like for me,
yeah,
I did. Clive Barker was worth it because it was his last convention. Like, okay, I have to meet Clive Barker. I can't say
yeah.
no to this
That's a bucket
opportunity.
list. That's
Yes. Yeah. And I met Pinhead. I met, like I said, Melissa Barrera, who I really like as an actress, who's been in some good movies, horror films the last couple of years. She was in the Scream movie. She was in Abigail. And she did this film called Bed Rest that I saw that's on Tubi, where she plays this woman who's pregnant with a child, but because of some sort of like condition, she has to be bed rest for the majority of her pregnancy. I'm like, that's actually a good concept right there.
Interesting. I'll check it out.
Oh yeah, it is. Especially how I think about it. You're on bed rest. You're bored. You're bored. It's like a little bit like a Shining, a little bit like
Yeah.
isolated and.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Is there anything else you want to cover?
Let's see here. Let's see. Oh yeah, I saw Maxine this past summer. That was a lot of fun and good. Again, Mia Goth is just an amazing actress. It wasn't Pearl X, but it still had some entertainment value to it to a degree.
All right. Well, maybe I'll get around to watching those. I know you recommended me those.
Yes. Oh yeah. Well, let's talk about Deadpool and Wolverine. What did you think of it?
I liked it. It was good. For those of you that haven't seen it, I'll try not to spoil it. It was really good, really funny.
Same. I agree.
Soundtrack could have been better, but it was...
Right. Well, I think that's the joke, though. Like, those songs that don't add up to the movie.
Yeah.
That's Deadpool for you.
It was nice, too. I mean, this isn't really a spoiler, because they kind of spoil it in the trailer, but it was nice to see Hugh Jackman finally wear the
yeah, that's not a spoiler right there. I was like, I basically nerded out when I saw the movie.
With the mask and everything. Yeah.
Like when he goes to the different universes of Wolverine, short Wolverine, because Wolverine is a short guy in the comic books.
I always said this. I think they missed an opportunity. Apparently, before Hugh Jackman was supposed to play Wolverine, the casting choice, and this is for all you heavy metal guys out there. Heavy metal singer Glenn Danzig auditioned to play Wolverine.
Okay.
And what's really funny is he would be the correct height. He's like 4 foot. He's like 4
right.
foot. And it's funny. He's like he grew out the sideburns for it. And knowing what I know about him, being kind of sort of a closet comic book fan, or maybe not so much closet comic book fan and an anime fan, it's kind of funny, considering he kind of has this tough guy image that he always kind of tries to present, but to be reading like a Wolverine comic.
Right, gotcha.
It goes to show like even the heavy metal rock stars got a little bit of nerd in them.
Right.
Everyone, there's a zeitgeist between the heavy metal headbanger and the nerd.
Right.
Most heavy metal guys are just big nerds.
Right. Well, for me, watching it was nice to see some homage, nostalgia, especially at that time we grew up on that era of 2000s.
Yeah,
comic book movies.
I marked out a little bit for seeing Sabretooth again.
Yeah.
No disrespect to the guy from Origins. I actually liked his performance.
Liv Schreiber.
Yeah, I liked his performance.
I haven't seen that movie in years since.
I haven't seen it.
I thought that was alright. I mean, at the time, I didn't understand its reputation.
In terms of getting it comic book accurate, Tyler Mane.
Yeah, true.
Looked like Sabretooth.
Yeah, I can agree on that one. Also, again, it had cameos from past, or even again, this is not a big spoiler. How Channing Tatum was supposed to play Gambit in the film. He finally got it.
Yeah, he finally got it, and he wasn't bad. The suit looked a little funny on him.
Well, that was, I guess, the joke. I guess
he was the only complaint I have about his Gambit is he's just a little too bulky.
Right.
He's a little too for Gambit. Gambit's supposed to be kind of scrawny a little bit.
Right. And also,
I still like the guy from Origins. I still prefer him. But
played him in Origins. I don't remember the guy's name.
I forget his name. But Tatum wasn't bad. He did the accent correct.
He did.
I wish they would have done something with his eyes, like in the show. But that's my only complaint. Minor complaint.
Right. I'm glad I went in surprise rather than knowing it was going to be in the movie than seeing a trailer. Well, even I knew it was going to be Deadpool and Wolverine teaming up. I didn't expect a Fox a Fox version of
Fox, like a 2000s reunion. Let's just say.
Pretty much. Without
spoiling who or what,
Right.
But
And I thought it was funny how like Deadpool, like, again, all the puns and the jokes, like, oh, Fox killed off Wolverine, but Disney bought it back. He's gonna do this till he's 90.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. My favorite joke. I mean, this isn't really a spoiler, but my favorite joke is when Deadpool says, you're in the MCU. You're entering at a little bit of a low point, and one of the best jokes in the movie.
Right,
I
but
was
that's the
like,
other that's the other funny thing too is he's poking fun about how like the recent MCU movies have not done as well like they did in the past.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it
Or
was a
even
nice little love letter to the
nice pull.
2000s MCU.
Yeah, it was. It was a nice love letter tribute to 2000s comic books for the time of what was a 2000s comic book movie.
Yeah, and it's funny, going back to the original X-Men movie. It's I would have liked the old school the costumes, but it's Hugh Jackman's great in it.
Yeah.
Um, they never can get Rogue right. I
Right.
don't know. They never could get her right.
I feel like they don't add much to Rogue in the movies that much. He's just there. That's it.
And it's funny. Like there were some adaptations where she's like a moody goth, and I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Evolution.
I want comic book Rogue. I want sassy Southern Belle that can fly.
Right.
I figured with the X-Men '97 we get something like that in the movies, but
I still haven't seen that yet.
no, I try to avoid it because I
Fair
heard
enough.
some things about it. I heard that it's good, but I don't know.
Right.
I'm very jaded nowadays. I'm a bit like an abused housewife when it comes to new stuff nowadays.
Right.
I'm just
Like
don't hit me again, please.
like like you said in a previous podcast, franchise fatigue.
A little bit, a little bit. I'm kind of tired of kind of the destruction of things I grew up with.
Right.
Of writers that don't understand how to do
Right.
it. And
Right.
I could be wrong about '97. I want to be wrong about '97. Please,
Right.
please prove me. But like I
Right.
said, it's I'm always approaching new things with a bit of caution.
Right.
You
Right.
know? And like I said,
Gotcha.
people can like that show. People can like whatever they want.
True.
It's
True.
my opinion.
I guess for me, it's just that, like, timing. I'm busy with other things. I just,
Yeah, finding the time.
and also, like, it's my mood too. It's like, do I really want to watch? Do I really want to waste my time watching this? Where I don't know. It could go either
Yeah,
way.
it's finding the time, and like is it really going to be worth it, or am I
Right.
going to waste my time with it?
Right. On Friday, I guess not to change the subject, I went to go see Beetlejuice. That was a good hour or so.
I'm curious about it.
Oh, it was good.
I've
Well,
heard nothing but good things about it.
well, I spoke to someone on TikTok. She didn't like it, but again, that's fine. It's not for everybody. But for me, I enjoyed it. I liked it. Was it great?
Yeah,
No,
it's
but
fun.
it was fun. It was a fun. Again, it's like we say sometimes. Don't go in expecting anything. Just sit back, relax, and have fun. Drink a soda, eat your favorite snack, and just have fun.
Turn your brain off for like an hour.
Yeah, exactly. That was
Those
the
are the
point.
best kind of movies sometimes, honestly.
Yeah.
I look for movies like that because it's like, man, I miss escapism.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it was.
I miss just enjoying the movie. That's why I liked a lot of the recent Godzilla and King Kong movies. I forget
Right.
which one I saw, but
Right.
I was like a kid on Christmas watching
Right.
King Kong and Godzilla fight. I'm like, yeah, giant monsters, yeah.
Right, right. Well, that's the same way I felt about Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice 2 was feeling like a kid again, where I'm like, yes, there's Tim Burton's thing, Winona Ryder, and here's so and so. Here's a homage to that original, like from the first movie,
Right.
even the new characters worked out very well, then better than expected, despite. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, it was Monica Bellucci was good in the movie, but it's like, okay, this whole again, this is not a big spoiler right here. A little bit of a background story about Beetlejuice was married before. This felt like it could have been its own movie, but again, it worked out pretty well mixing it in with this movie.
Yeah, and considering the amount of time that has passed,
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
right. And I do miss Gina Davis, Alec Baldwin. I'm not sure why they came back for this, but despite that, it was still a good movie despite no Gina Davis and Alec Baldwin.
Yeah, and I don't think it really needed them, honestly.
No, and it's
You
also
know,
like one of those like rare 30-year gap sequels that actually worked out very well and better than expected. Because that can be like hit or miss when you make a sequel to a movie that came out 30 years ago.
absolutely,
Sometimes
absolutely.
it
Look
either
at the
works or doesn't work.
Terminator.
But
Yeah,
right,
look at the Terminator franchise.
yeah, yeah.
It just didn't
As,
work
as,
out.
as
But
someone who loves Terminator, I've sort of given up on the franchise at this point, and I'm not
yeah,
excited.
that was a blow. That and Star Wars was a blow. So
I agree, yeah. And as someone who loves Star Wars, the original stuff, but I have not seen any of the Disney Plus shows. I'm like, again, I'm fatigued. I'm just,
yeah,
oh my
you're
god.
fatigued, and there's a lot to catch up on, and you just either don't have the time or don't have the heart. You know.
That's combination of both for me, the time and the heart. I got other things
Yeah,
going on in my life that are more
yeah,
important.
it's just like you don't want to be disappointed. You want to enjoy something, and
Yeah,
you just see disappointment after disappointment. It's
right.
like
Beetlejuice worked because I grew up on the first one as a little kid. It's one of my favorite films I watched as a kid, and here I
I'll
am.
definitely check it out for sure.
Oh yeah, it's worth it. Again, don't try hard. Just sit back, relax, just have fun with it. That's my advice.
Yeah, yeah,
And
for sure.
also, Jen Ortega.
Well, I know she's like your favorite. So
Yeah, this well, that and Melissa Barrera, my recent crushes.
right,
And I guess on top of it,
shooting
Mia
out
Goth,
there.
because Mia Goth is just so talented and amazing. Like again, Mia Goth is someone I've enjoyed so much that if she did a bad movie, she'll make the best of it.
Right, exactly.
If
Just
Mia
movie
Goth
wise.
was in Space Jam 2, she'll give it her all.
Yeah, just add Mia Goth. You'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if Mia Goth's in the movie, I'm like, okay, I'm good. I'll just shut my brain off and enjoy how talented she is.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
I recently watched her Infinity Pool. That was, oh my god. I mean, again, it was great, but I don't know if anyone's gonna like sink their teeth in it, or it's gonna be for everybody.
Yeah, there are certain movies like that. You know,
Because it was, you know, how they say like when you watch a movie, it was predictable. Not this movie. Every second, I was like, holy shit!
right.
It was like
Exactly.
every scene was not predictable. I'm like, oh my god, like my jaw was dropping. Like, oh my god, I just I needed a
Twist
mental.
after twist after twist. Well, that's a bit like, and I've mentioned this movie before. Tetsuo the Iron Man.
Yeah, you told me about that. I gotta check
Yeah,
that
yeah.
out.
For those of you that aren't familiar, I'm talking to the audience here. It's a bit like if you're familiar with David Lynch meets David Cronenberg. Gore of Cronenberg mixed with the weirdness of David Lynch.
And not to cut you off, the movie Infinity Pool was directed by his son Brandon Cronenberg, and who knows, there could be potential where he's going to be our generation's David Cronenberg. But go on.
Who knows? But yeah, I mean that the Iron Man specifically, Tetsuo, is one of those movies. Same reaction of like what the heck am I watching? And it gets so crazy and so off the rails by the end. You're just like, all right, I'm in it. I'm in it now. Much like the protagonist. You're in it. You're part of it. You assimilate to it, and it's definitely a weird movie. And it's definitely worth a watch if you're looking for something different. And I do say different with
Right.
here.
It's called what? Tetsu.
Tetsuo, the
Okay,
Iron
here we
Man.
go. I got it.
It's a
Yeah,
weird.
I have a list of things that you recommend.
Yeah, it's a weird movie. It's
Right.
it's it's the type of movie you might need a break
Right.
after because
Right.
it's very mind fuckable.
Right. Well, so is Infinity Pool, but in a good way. Like I said, I needed a mental break after that, watching some like comedy after that.
Right, and I mean this. Tetsuo is different in that it's batshit. It's crazy. It's absolutely out of its mind. Um,
Right.
but in terms of practical effects, there's stop motion. There's kind of speeding up footage and stuff like the techniques. It's all practical.
Right. Right. Gotcha.
Late '80s, early '90s, kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
Um, but it's an interesting movie for sure.
Right.
But is there
Gotcha.
anything you want to touch on?
Oh, I went to, well, here's, I guess this is the last thing I'm going to touch upon. I went to a I went to the Cinema Arts Center in Long Island, and I saw some I went to an all night horror movie marathon. I saw the movie Demons.
Oh, the 80s movie?
Yes, it was really good.
I told you it was really good. Yeah,
It was.
for those of you that don't know about demons, and this goes out to my heavy metal fans as well. If there's any heavy metal people in chat that love some 80s metal, Demons is your movie. It's a movie about people that go into a theater and they come upon a mask that turns them into demons, and the entire soundtrack is 80s metal.
Right. I don't know why. It felt like a little like Dawn of the Dead with the style, especially
Yeah, a little bit,
a little bit. But in a good way, though.
It's very Romero. I almost said romantic.
A little bit to a degree. And also, have you ever heard of a movie called Dolls by Stuart Gordon who did Reanimator?
Is that the Full Moon movie?
No.
No, I haven't seen it.
Oh,
I
saw that.
Like Full Moon.
Well, definitely, I recommend Dolls. It was basically about all these random people, like the old dark house, where they're out in the middle of nowhere. They come across these old people who make dolls, but part of my friends were part of my friends.
Yeah,
it's like a little bit like Child's Play to some degree.
Yeah, I might have seen that. I'm pretty sure it's the Full Moon movie I'm talking about.
Right, but anyway, I just have a little ranting right here. In the movie, there was this father and his soon to be, I guess, the second wife is getting divorced, and he's only marrying his second wife because she's rich, so that way his debts will be paid up. But he was the world's shittiest father. Never in a horror film I've ever watched a movie where I wanted the spoilers right here. The parents died, but they were the world's shittiest parents in the universe.
All right, Dolls. I'll check it out. I think I've seen it.
Sorry for my rant right there, but that's just a fact about the movie.
Food for thought. Can you just look up who produced it? I'm almost positive I've seen it.
Okay.
Was it Full Moon? Because it's Full Moon, I've seen it.
No, it's Empire Pictures.
Empire Pictures. Yeah, it must have been. I'll look that one up because I know.
Yeah.
I know a movie with the exact same name with a very, very similar plot.
Okay. Well, this is from the 80s by Stuart Gordon, like I said, who did Reanimator.
Yeah, that sounds so familiar.
Yeah, but like I said,
it was one. Who knows? Maybe Full Moon owns it now. I don't know.
But like I said, with my rant, never in a horror film.
Too.
Like I said in my rant before, never in a horror film I wanted a father to die so bad because he was such a shitty person to his daughter.
Right.
Right. Because sometimes in horror films you want the family to survive.
What year did it come out?
It came out 1987.
87. I'll look it up. I'll try to see if I can find it.
Right. And they also showed this revenge sci-fi thriller called The Wrath with a very young and unknown Charlie Sheen at the time.
Interesting. Oh, The Raid.
What? The Raid. Yeah, I'm sorry. The Raid. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I know.
It was basically the better revenge thriller I saw last week than the Crow reboot that came out.
Yeah, it's a good movie. My dad is actually a huge fan of that movie.
Right. Gotcha. They also showed the Blob remake and the original Fright Night.
That's a good remake. The Blob remake is good.
Yeah.
We've talked about 80s remakes, how they seem to get the formula correct.
Yeah, well, that was
reinvented for better, almost.
Right. Well, also they did a good job changing things up from the original to the remake.
Absolutely, they made it bloodier and I wouldn't say better, but definitely put its own spin on it that had its own brand of cool.
Also in the Blob remake, you had this character who was sort of a punk, but you kind of see how three-dimensional he was and misunderstood, despite he got in a lot of trouble. But he becomes the hero in the end of saving the town.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, good change up. And one thing I agree with my dad about the Blob remake, the effects are better than the remake. I can agree with him on that one.
Yeah, well, that's a little unfair considering the original was in the 50s or 60s.
50s, late 50s. I mean, I do like the original on different levels. I like
the
characters.
Charm.
Yeah.
I like the 80s one a lot, but
Same.
With respect to the original, I like the original too.
Yeah. Me too. Neutral.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a bit like the argument, Thing from Another World versus John Carpenter's Things. They're completely different movies, however, they both have the same kind of charm.
Right.
Different
Right.
mind you.
Right.
But, yeah. All right. Is there anything else you want to talk about, or can we wrap this up?
Nah, I think we wrap it up. We basically summed up everything that's on my list.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. I've been Wolfman Sam here with my partner Johnny Both Guns, and we are Creatures of the Night.
Creatures of the Night. And
We'll see
see
you all
more
next-
for Halloween.
Yes. Till Halloween. Till next time.